Listen, if you ever wanted proof that the Game Boy Advance can recreate your favorite arcade games, I've got the game for you. This is Street Fighter Alpha 3 from Capcom. This is with the Alpha characters, and these guys are sort of more anime skewed. They're not as gritty and nasty looking as the regular Street Fighter dudes are. You get 31 fighters in this game. We got Ryu, E. Honda, Cody, Karen, Vega, Blanca,
Ken, Junie, Zangief, Cammy, Sodom,
Dhalsim, DJ, Dan, Akuma, Fei Long, Sagat, Chun-Li, Charlie, Thunderhawk, Rolento, Sakura, Yen, Monrad, Rose, and of course,
M. Bison. Everybody's in here. And there's 3 different fighting styles in the game as well, and they're called isms. You got your A-ism, which is sort of your standard fighting. You got X-ism, which has got super combos. And then you got your V-ism, which is sort of variable attacks. Now, I like playing with V-ism because it gives you variable combo attacks, which means that you can stay in sort of combo move with all these flashy different maneuvers until they hit you. This is some of the best sort of hand-drawn animation I've seen on the Game Boy Advance. The fighting styles are cool. There's all kinds of different fighting styles from all over the world. You got your single player, you got your versus, you got the ability to link up and play against somebody else with Game Boy Advance. And there's also all kinds of new modes that you acquire as you go through, including a very cool dramatic battle sequence where you can actually play in cooperative mode against a whole bunch of bad guys. Now, the only thing that bums me out about this game is not the game itself, it's the fact that the Game Boy Advance only has these 2 buttons here and the 2 top shoulder buttons. This is a game that absolutely screams out for at least 4 buttons on the face. You want to be able to do all kinds of combo maneuvers and special attacks this way, and using these buttons is lame for a fighting game. Street Fighter Alpha 3 is an instant Game Boy Advance classic, 9.5 out of 10. All right, we're back. We're going to talk now about Death Row. This one's from Ubisoft for the Xbox. Now, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, you know, Death Row is an interesting game because you really don't know what to make of it. I mean, you certainly can't tell what kind of game it is from the box.
It looks like an action-adventure game.
And the screenshots, yeah, fighting game, I don't know.
It's a death sport of the future. It's one of these takes on traditional team sports, but now we're in the future, and it's real hardcore guys. It's battling against each other.
It's got a roller ball meets American Gladiator type feel. Never really got into these futuristic sports games, so it didn't really grab me.
They have a tough time finding an audience historically. Because people, if they're into sports games,
you're going to be buying Madden, and they're buying World Series.
Right, and if they're wanting an action type game, like a fighting type game, they're picking up fighting games. But that's not to say that the design of this game is faulty or that this delivers a really bad experience.
Well, speak for yourself.
I think the game actually works. It does what it's supposed to do. The graphics are pretty good. The action is pretty tight. The control is a little bit confusing at first, but then you get it. You can do everything that you want to do.
There's a couple of camera angles you can choose from. Right. The one, you know,
there's a sports cam, which is sort of like the traditional overhead sports cam that you'd see in an NBA game or a hockey game or something.
And that's really the one you play the most.
Well, and then there's the action cam where you actually get to be on the playing field from sort of the right behind the player's perspective.
But it's very hard to find where the disc is in both.
They've had to do it this way because you have so much control with your character, whether he's on the ball or off the ball, because you can get into fights. So if you choose to not even bother to go deal with scoring, you can just let your AI teammates to go score, and you can just go be a battler and just kick the crap out of everybody that's on your opposing team.
Okay, if it's going to be kind of this just, you know, average at best kind of game,
right,
at least make it online playable.
This would have been good online.
And once again,
they have a LAN play.
There's no online.
Now the way that this plays in multiplayer is also a little bit different because you can have control of just one character for the game, and you can go off and do anything that you want to do. It isn't one sort of static screen of the entire playfield.
Didn't like that either.
You have a split screen mode.
Why did they give this a mature rating? There's no real reason.
Much swearing.
Yeah, there's swearing in it. Again, I think they're using the bad language as kind of a hook almost. It feels that way to me. You know, there's no like blood and heads rolling off. You know, they say things like.
They do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't notice the circus moron. I'm gonna rip your head off and down your throat.
Actually, I think it's the first game ever to say.
No, I think it's been said before in video games. I think.
Really? Which game says?
Well, I think there's been like a couple of PC games that have had like
Really?
games where you actually go shoot somebody in the head.
And say,
Yeah, like Kingpin on the PC. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 3.5.
Whew, you hated that thing.
Well, I didn't hate it. Well, I hated it.
On the positive side, this is a unique hybrid of a fighting and sports game set in the future. You almost look like Tron when you're running around with the disc in the blue suit.
Tron!
And it's a nice mix of scoring on the goals and kicking the crap out of your opponents.
On the negative side, no matter what camera angle you use, it's still hard to pick up exactly where the disc is. There's really no reason for this game to be M-rated. It seemed like they just threw in words like just for shock value. There's no Xbox Live capability. And finally, overall, the game just doesn't have lasting appeal.
All right, a little while ago we reviewed the Microcon controller for the GameCube, and I guess there were a few PlayStation 2 owners out there that wanted to find out what we thought of the PlayStation 2 controller. So here we are. This is the PlayStation 2 Microcon from Mad Catz. So what do you think of this one?
Here's a controller that's very, very small. You know, it's pretty much made for hobbits.
Right.
And the great thing I like about the PlayStation 2 version is that all of the buttons are raised a little higher than all the other controllers you've ever seen. And same thing with the gaming pad itself. And the cool thing is that when you hit these buttons, it actually feels like you're
There's
really...
a tactile sense of actually pressing down on something.
Right.
It's very tough. It's a very sturdy controller. It's built for little kids to swing around and bash onto things and jump on things, and you know, they sit on them and they throw them and they eat them. The PlayStation 2 controller itself, the pack-in, is our favorite controller. It's probably the best one that's been built for gaming, period. And you know, if you've got that already and it's working fine for the kids, you don't really need to go into this one at all, because even though it's a little bit smaller, it's not that much smaller.
And remember, it's backwards compatible with
Right.
the PlayStation as well, so you get your little PS1 going and
You can take it on the road,
you're good to
play
go.
anywhere.
Well, I'm definitely going to recommend it.
I'm going to recommend it as well.
On the positive side, the button response and pad response is really, really well done. The controller overall is very small, so it's great for kids or munchkins like me. It's got a macro button, a long cord, and rubber.
On the negative side, even though this is a great controller, if everybody in your house is fine using the regular pack-in PlayStation 2 controller, I'd probably stick with that one. After this, we're going to be talking about Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Stick around.